Welcome to The Art of Social Media, a podcast by SocialPilot. We host in-depth discussions with world-leading social media marketing experts that will help you discover the techniques, strategies, and skills you need to use to grow your business using social media. Now, here's your host, Tejas Mehta.
Why don't I deep dive into the social strategy that Sparktoro uses, right? What kind of content do you post on the two channels, Twitter and LinkedIn? How do you figure out the best time to post? Is it video? Is it audio? Is it images? All the fine details that agencies really want to know.
Yeah, it depends on all the things depend on all the things. But in terms of what we post, we don't have hard limits around that. So it tends to be the case that we basically have three accounts on both LinkedIn and Twitter. So the Sparktoro official account, Amanda's account, and my account. And we, generally speaking, are doing a combination of what I'd call educational content, maybe news and industry trend commentary. Some folks kind of call that thought leadership style stuff. And then a very substantive portion of which is pure engagement that I would call entertainment or just personal connection, right? So essentially, hey, I see this person, I don't know, having a tough day, looking for some help on, they want to, they have a job posting. Hey, I know that person. Let me go help them out and amplify their job posting and just sort of be a good human being in the world to them. And that's something that I think Amanda and I would do regardless of where we worked. But Sparktoro sees a lot of benefit from that, right? There's just lots of people who have nice things to say about, us because we help them. And I love that. I think that sort of serendipitous, impossible to measure payback from being a good human being to other people. That's I love that kind of marketing, right? And it's hard to even classify it as marketing. It's just sort of the thing that happens when you put goodness out in the world. In terms of the Sparktoro account, that is mostly posting content that's related to what we are doing with the brand. So it's usually blog posts, webinars, sometimes podcast interviews. We also take this sort of strong position on our work culture, and we've been doing a lot of brand building and amplification and social media marketing around that. So we have this concept, Tejas, of what we call chill work. And chill work is sort of this in opposition to hustle culture, right? Chill work is essentially our general practice of trying to work maybe 25 to 30 hours a week. So, closer to like European style working hours, and focusing on the work that we can do that has the highest returns and that is the most useful, rather than striving to work the most or get the most possible done that we can. And that's obviously big difference from how most companies operate. But we try and do a lot around amplifying that message and talking about that wherever and however we can. The Sparktoro account does that. We're starting up a podcast, actually, Amanda and I are, called Chill Work.
I love the concept of chill work, something to experiment with at SocialPilot as well. Thanks for sharing that. And thanks again for amplifying everybody on social media. Social media these days really requires people who are doing good deeds, as opposed to all the negativity that we see.
Yeah. It's a very reciprocal type of environment. If you see someone who's consistently good to other people and good to you, it's just going to be really different from if it's, oh, hey, they're posting their, every day, the blog post that they put up on their website, they tweet about that. It's not the same, right?
Absolutely. Going back to Sparktoro's social account, what metrics do you use to kind of measure the success? How do you know that your social strategy for Sparktoro is working or not? Is this revealing your secret sauces,
Oh
Ran?
man, you're gonna hate this answer. We don't measure. We don't measure. I know it's wild, especially after Moz, right? Moz had a very, huge dashboard tracking everything, every department, the social, the content team, the events team, the SEO team, everybody had all their metrics that they were tracking, and they'd report those dashboards up to their managers, and the managers would show them to the C level, and we'd talk about them at the board of directors level. And at Sparktoro, I don't care. I think that work is wasted. So this goes back to the kind of the chill work thing. I think the process of measuring and analyzing and trying to perfect and refine your metrics, for us, it just doesn't matter. We're too small. We don't have to report to anyone, right? It's just me and Casey and Amanda. We're the only ones who care. And so we look for investments that we want to make. We make them regardless of whether the payoff is there. We double down on things that look like they worked before. So Amanda or I might look at our Twitter stats or our LinkedIn stats. We might look at blog posts that did well through Google Analytics and didn't do well. And we might try and double down on some things that didn't. But to be honest, there is no formality around it at all. And that saves us a ton of work. And I actually think it means that we're more creative.
I love that, Ran. SocialPilot is also bootstrapped, and I totally understand. No pressure of investors, no reporting to anybody else. Hey, we'll do what we feel right, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun.
I mean, it's one of those things where I think natural human behavior, if you think about like you or I, Tejas, out in the world, right? When we go, I don't know, we go to the supermarket and we go shopping, and we don't have analytics around, hey, how fast did you get all the grocery shopping done? And did you get the optimal prices? But over time, I would argue that most human beings figure out a pattern that satisfies their needs in a relatively optimum sort of way, because our brains are sort of built to learn. They're built for pattern matching. We identify patterns, we find them, we execute on them. That's essentially what we're doing here, right? Instead of being metrics driven, we're more metrics informed. Oh, I'm curious about how well my tweets did last month. Let me go pop into my whatever follower wonk account. I do have a follower wonk account. I'll look at, where I grew my followers a lot. Every once in a while, probably every 3 to 5 months, I'll go in there and take a look and see what's going on. And that data is interesting, and it'll maybe help me be more informed next time, but it is not rigid. There's not a restriction or a guardrails against doing more creative sorts of things that we might want to do. And I think that has better long-term ROI when you're a small challenger brand in a startup environment than having that corporate style structure.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. I want to touch on the personal branding side of things in a minute, but I just have quick couple of questions. How can content marketers use social media to amplify their content marketing? And then how can SEOs use social media to kind of amplify their SEO efforts?
Those answers, we could do 2 hours on those topics. I would say, so on the social media for content, I think there's the most simple and straightforward, which is you share the content that you create. But the next level, right, level 2 of that sophistication is you find elements of the content that you are creating on your own website or your own webinars or whatever, and you repurpose those into native content on the platform. For example, you might take, let's say there's 2 or 3 visuals or images from your blog post. You might take one of those and share it with no link and, some commentary about it on the topic on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, or you might do a little mini video on TikTok. You might post it to a subreddit that's relevant. You might answer a question on Quora with it, all these kinds of things. And then you might follow up in the whatever, in a comment or a reply with a link, or maybe not even, right? Your goal might be just to use that content that you've created to grow your engagement and your audience on the social platform. So the next time you share the link, you get more traction, more attention. I think the level 3 above even that is using a combination of starting on social with native content that it earns engagement, and then taking the stuff that's earned engagement for you on social and turning that into content for your own site, knowing that you've already got the line from I engage lots of people on social around this topic, and now I've written about or published about this topic on my own site. And so now I can go back to that audience that was engaged with it, and I can add it to the thread or share it on my feed. And that's kind of level 3. And there's even more distribution options out there. I urge folks who are interested in these tactics to check out Ross Simmons's work around from Foundation Inc. Ross Simmons does a whole ton of marketing education around the distribution process of content, and I think he's absolutely a genius around it. And the other one is my colleague at Sparktoro, Amanda Natividad. I mean, you can see her brilliance, right? She just her Twitter account alone last year at this time, she had about 1,000 followers. Now she's over 60,000. That has happened exclusively organically through her sharing the kinds of threads and content and earning an audience and engaging with people on Twitter that has made her sort of a must follow for a ton of people. And you can see all the tactics that she uses just by studying her account. In terms of using social for SEO, so everything we talked about with content benefits from that, right? So all the amplification that you might do, every visitor is an opportunity for engagement, for a link, for branding, for branded search volume in the future, for a reference and a recommendation in the future. And all those things feed into SEO and have positive impacts on Google. You can do more direct kinds of social SEO things. Someone, who was it? I think it was Brendan Hufford, is that his name? On LinkedIn had a great example. What was really interesting is he shared this example of an SEO social hack, but essentially what he's pointing out is this, Sean Puri was urging his social followers to go to Google and search for the brand that was associated with their, I think it's a cryptocurrency offering of some kind. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but by doing that, you get people to search for you, click on your result in the links, and then you start to outrank other things that might be competing for your brand or your topic. And I did some experiments around this back in my Moz days. It was very effective. I could get Google to change the ordering of the search results for several hours by sending a tweet. And if you have a big following, that tends to work.
I noticed that you use follower wonk, obviously, for your Twitter profile. What are the other tools that you use for social media? What's in the toolbox?
Not a ton, to be honest. I mean, this is self-serving, but Amanda and I both use a lot of Sparktoro itself to identify, people who are influential with the audiences that we want to reach, and sources that they pay attention to, and then contribute to those and do partnerships and webinars, blah, 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 blah. The only other one that has been really big for us and super valuable is we do a lot of video. And so there's a few tools in there. Right now, I'm on video with you through Open Broadcast System, OBS, which I have set up with my camera system, and you can do sort of fun things with it, right? I can make myself small or add, sort of box in box screen sharing or other kinds of fun things. We also use Wistia, which is our video host, and we do, there's lots of options around self-hosting stuff and social sharing and hosting stuff. that is very useful editing capabilities and analytics around video so we can see where people are dropping off in the content that we create. We also use Crowdcast for our webinars, and I think very highly of them. They have just an outstanding platform. It's sort of just the right amount of features and not too much to be complex. And they handle thousands of guests at a time really, really well. They've got a great chat interface. It's super well done.
Interesting. Quite a lot of tools to kind of explore. In your opinion, what do you think is the future of social media? Is it metaverse? Is it something even bigger than that?
Nope, I don't think it is metaverse or something bigger than that. Yeah, I think this is very similar to Tejas. I don't know how old you are, but I see a little bit of gray in your beard, and like mine. And so I am guessing you remember, sort of the 1970s, 80s, even the early 90s. There was this whole television is going to evolve into virtual reality environment, like living room, and you're going to watch things live, and you're going to be there. And I don't want that. Nobody wants that. It's a solution in search of a problem. I think that the audience for what the metaverse is trying to be, and what Zuckerberg imagines is just way, way too small. And I think, unfortunately, what happens with a lot of these billionaire tech founders is their ideas up to a certain point worked so well, made them so rich and famous and powerful that they believe that all their other ideas must be equally that good. And so, and you see this throughout history, right? With rich and powerful people who think that their ideas are, all of them are going to be world changing and excellent. And of course, it's usually just the first few that work that way. The future of social media, I think, is going to be very, very different based on what governments around the world do, especially here in the United States, where I think that it's quite possible that regulation around M&A, so acquisitions, basically, I think that the FTC and other organizations are considering whether in today's world they ever would have allowed something like Facebook's acquisition of Instagram, and I think the answer to that is no, or even Google's rollout of an integration of Google Maps to say hey, are you allowed to take your own property and put it at the very top for everything? And the WhatsApp acquisition by Facebook's another great example. So I think we could see some big changes there. I also think there's some big potential changes coming around bifurcation of communities. So essentially folks, younger generations and people who kind of are getting tired of the social platforms that they have been using and looking for more niche communities. And I think that's on the horizon, whether that's niche communities like I'm going to go to my own subreddit and participate there, or I'm going to leave Facebook for, I don't know, Fresh Chalk or Nextdoor or whatever, whatever niche community is more aligns with what I want to pay attention to and care about. But I think that split is also coming.
It's very, very powerful to see how FTC can control, or governments can control social media. I remember the past president wanted to kind of, have TikTok exit the US market, or have it acquired by Oracle or somebody in the lines. But that reminds me, do you think TikTok is eating Instagram's lunch?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram growth and engagement was one of the few bright spots, I think, in Facebook's last earnings report. And TikTok's obviously had kind of its fastest growth ever. So it doesn't look like they're cannibalizing each other. I think that they're, people use them differently and together. I think I would be a little more worried about maybe Snapchat and TikTok. I think that Snapchat might have a tough time as kind of social network number 5 or 6 competing against TikTok. And yeah, TikTok itself certainly has found a niche that's really, unique. I think they've got that kind of advantage going from just all the creators using them because the audience seems to be there. So the audience uses them because the creators are there, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I don't think it doesn't seem to be cannibalizing YouTube either, which is going just as strong as ever. So yeah, tough to say. I could see a future, on the political front. I could absolutely imagine things go badly with Russia, Ukraine, China backs Russia, the United States gets much more aggressive against, China, Russia, and, does decide that TikTok is far too dangerous a threat vector and shuts it down. And then, other Western countries do similar, and TikTok, whatever, goes away, gets acquired, blah, blah, blah. That's not impossible for me to imagine. I think it was one of I have so many disagreements with the previous president, but I'm not sure the TikTok one was the craziest thing he ever did. So yeah, I can see that happening, and I don't pretend to know those worlds deeply, but it's not impossible.
My last one for you, Ran. Who in the world of social media would you like to take out for lunch? Who do you want to talk and kind of, uncover secrets from?
Oh man, gosh. I don't know a ton about the new Twitter CEO, Agrawal. But yeah, that's someone I'd love to learn more about, because Twitter is very interesting to me, and it's a primary network for what I do and what Sparktoro does. And I think that whereas, Twitter's previous leadership all had very defined public personas, Parag is someone who's just much comparatively more quiet, and I'm sure is a fascinating person and interesting. And I would love to know the kind of direction that he's thinking about for the company. Wonderful.
Well, Ran, thanks a lot for a wonderful and engaging session. There's a lot to learn for myself as well as all our audiences here at SocialPilot. Where can people find you? Is Twitter the best place?
Depends. If you want all of my opinions, then Twitter is great, where I'm at Randfish. If you're looking for more just, business, marketing, work-focused stuff, LinkedIn is good. And so is the Sparktoro blog.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Ran, for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Tejas.
Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
The Art of Social Media is brought to you by SocialPilot. To find out more about SocialPilot and how we can give you everything you need to hit your social media marketing goals, visit socialpilot.co. And then make sure to search for The Art of Social Media in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click follow so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at SocialPilot, thanks for listening.